going on, guys? Welcome back to the Rant and Review Pro Wrestling. Yep, little break from the pro wrestling world. It's always needed every once in a while. Well, we're back here to talk about what has been going on in the world of pro wrestling. In particular, in this video, we're going to be talking about New Japan Pro Wrestling. Of course, it is nearing that time. We are about to begin one of my favorite times of the year. It's a G1 Climax 34 starting up this week. 4 weeks of, as Gabe Kid said, the premier tournament. Yeah, you know, the King of the Ring, yeah, the Continental Classic, yeah, but the G1 is something else. The G1 tournament is one of the things that is unique about New Japan Pro Wrestling, even though there are a bunch of different round-robin tournaments, but the G1 is just the G1. It is its own thing. It is special in its own way. So we're going to talk about that in this video because we had the press conference that happened and these press conferences in the past have been kind of uneventful. The past couple of years, though, they have been entertaining. Of course, last year the whole thing with Kenta calling everybody ugly. This year, a much smaller field, not 4 blocks this year. We're back to the 2 blocks. Of course, the format is returned to the somewhat of the old school format, 2 blocks of 10. We did have play-ins. We got Bolton Oleg, who played in and won his way through a mini tournament to get into the B block. And surprisingly, to me, Caleb Newman, he did make it into the A block, and that is a shocker because I expected. I thought TJP or somebody like that would get in there. I thought that there was a possibility that you could get some other blood in this tournament, but I don't think the TJP experiment seems to be going off. He's been trying his hardest, but I don't know if New Japan sees a future star in him. I mean, he didn't win the Best of the Super Juniors, so I guess that kind of would knock him out of why would he be in the G1 if he couldn't win Best of the Super Juniors. Usually guys who do that, they either are finalists, and it is what it is. But the press conference, again, this year was very hilarious because we had some bright moments, some dull moments, and some just really, really weird moments. The standouts from this to me, of course, the guy who was, you might as well call him Steve Williams III because he has adopted not only the ring garb and kind of the in-ring style of a Dr. Death Steve Williams, but he's also kind of become the modern day New Japan version of another Steve Williams we know as Steve Austin, and just being a hellraiser. He doesn't come out when they announce all the A block guys. Everybody comes out, they sit down, Jay Lee, Naito, everybody comes out, and Zack Sabre Jr. is about to give his speech as all the guys get to say their piece at the press conference, and Gabe Kid just shows up out of nowhere, curses out everybody, basically humiliates Sonata. It's like, Sonata, remember what happened to you last year. Your bicep was all messed up, but you, and this is Gabe Kid's words, kind of laid an egg when you got to the finals, and later he did because he lost to Evil in the first round of the playoffs last year. And then he went and talked about how Driller Maloney had the same injury, but Driller powered through the Best of the Super Juniors, and he was going to end Sonata. He made fun of Tetsuya Naito. He called everybody a B word. He didn't even address Caleb Newman. He just laughed at the fact Caleb Newman was there, which is terrible. And then he saved his major fire, however, for Shota Umino. And him and Shota got in a little bit of a tussle there. Gabe Kid gets thrown out, and that is Gabe Kid's presence. I've been telling you guys for a long time, this guy's got something. And he definitely is a standout here. Naito being his usual comical self, putting on the air of not taking this very seriously. Even when he's answering questions from the press, he's kind of goofing off a little bit, putting a hat on this, putting a hat on that. Shingo was rather serious. Caleb looked like he's because we all know he's full of nerves. I think he's probably the youngest guy, if not one of the youngest guys in the tournament this year. A couple other standouts here and there. Zack Sabre Jr. did his weird thing. I don't know if this is what happens when you don't eat meat or you read too much of Karl Marx, but he walked around with the microphone for a good 3 minutes in the crowd, beating the microphone against stuff, and then he gets back up and then just says bye or something, and that's it. And he did something similar last year. He walked around the backstage behind the curtain and did I don't know what I don't get Zach, but he's a great wrestler, so it's all good. And some of the other highlights, the B Block guys came out later on. What Yota Tsuji, I think it's pudding or rice pudding or something. He gave everybody rice pudding. David Finlay kept knocking his off the table. Then he knocked Jeff Cobb's, who was sitting. Amazingly enough, you had Jeff Cobb and David Finlay sitting next to each other, breaking a little kayfabe there because they're in two factions that were blood rivals about a couple months ago, and now they're sitting next to each other, casually talking to each other. And Finlay keeps knocking the pudding over. So then everybody gets up on the podium, and you can see in the background Hanare and Bolton Oleg, they're just chowing down on this. They are just slopping this stuff up. It is great. Oleg, by the way, surprising. I've never heard him really speak that much, but he is close to fluent, I would say, in Japanese. He spoke like one of the Japanese wrestlers. Now, to be noted, most of the Western wrestlers, there were a few exceptions, but most of them did come up and speak a lot of Japanese, which is kind of cool to see that, you know, the trend that Kenny Omega started is now continued on through the years, and now a lot of guys who are foreigners who are speaking some Japanese. Even Gabe Kidd was speaking in Japanese when he was insulting everybody. Tsuji came out with everybody's dressed up again. If you don't know the G1, a lot of guys are dressed up. Fashion show time. Jake Lee's his outfit was a little weird, a little disheveled, but that kind of goes with his character a bit. David Finlay lists a bunch of accomplishments that he's had. It's okay, and then he has done a lot. They have booked him well. I do think he is in that realm now where you do kind of respect him as a character. Him again, he's still got a ways to go. He's got big shoes to fill, but I think it kind of like Jay White. I think he's entering that time period where right now I think Finlay just needs like one or two like really, really amazing matches. And I'm not just talking about in-ring skill. I'm just matches that are memorable. Jay White had his at the G1 several years ago when him and Kota Ibushi faced each other in the finals. That was the first time I took Jay White seriously as a main eventer, even though they've been pushing him as that for a while. I don't know if Finley's going to have the same kind of moment this year, but I think every Bullet Club leader, with the exception of Finn, God, I'm getting the names confused. Finn Balor, Prince Devitt. I think AJ had his moment in the G1. Kenny obviously had his moment by winning the G1, as I just mentioned, Jay. So I think I'm looking out of David Finlay this year for him to have his G1 moment. A match that just gets everybody talking. That's kind of the last puzzle piece he needs to kind of start getting the respect from a lot of the wrestling fans, because he's got the heel character. I think he's refined his character a lot now. I'm kind of digging the way he presents himself. So we'll see. A lot of references to some people that have been gone in the past. And Finlay mentioned a couple guys. He made reference to Jay White and Will Ospreay, but the one that struck out the most to me was El Phantasmo, who looked like he was depressed the entire time. And he gets on, he's like, he usually has a pretty funny press conference, pre-recorded video, or he'll do something funny at the press conference. He's done that for the last couple of years he's been in the G1, but this year he said he didn't have anything. He didn't have any impressions. He didn't have any jokes because, Hanare left without saying goodbye, apparently. Not Hanare, Hikuleo left without saying goodbye, apparently, when he left New Japan, heading his way to WWE. And during the Forbidden Door tour, apparently, I didn't know about this, but Jay White and Juice Robinson didn't even say anything to El Phantasmo, and they were all boys, especially Jay and El Phantasmo. So ELP looked pretty sad for most of the time. He's kind of pouting. I've mentioned this before, like, this poor dude is like a guy without a country. He's in New Japan, and everybody he's partnered with up in New Japan is out the door. Jay White, Tama Tonga, Hikuleo, everybody just kind of, and I think he feels, or at least his character is being presented as the guy that's kind of left behind. So are they going to make that into, that's a really cool story they could do something with. I don't know if New Japan's going to pick up on that too much, but we'll have to see in the future. And amidst all this pudding eating and food, and Takeshita coming out there looking like he's like in the mafia or something, or I guess it'd be the Yakuza, given that they're in Japan. It was a pretty good press conference. There were some really entertaining moments in it. Probably the funnest moment was when the translator popped everybody because Sho gets up and does his thing, and he just kind of pretends he's smoking a joint or whatever, puts it out on a microphone, blows into the microphone, and then leaves off the stage. And Jeff Cobb and David Finley are sitting there telling the translator, I didn't understand that, translate it. And she goes, and you can see, because they got a wide shot of everybody, all the Japanese guys didn't show anything, but all the gaijins or the foreigners, they broke character, started laughing. You even see ELP, who was trying to play off that he was depressed. You can see him trying to hide trying to tamp down his smile, because just the way she blew into the microphone as the translation. Jeff Cobb, David Finley, and Hanare are all cracking up, breaking. They got popped. They all cracked up. Hanare's trying to hide it behind his hat. Jeff Cobb is putting his face behind his championship, trying to keep everybody from seeing him laughing. And David Finley, of all people, I haven't seen David Finley smile in 5 years. He finally smiled because the translator popped him, and he actually cracked up over this, and then tried to knock Yota Tsuji's hat off the top of his head on his way out as well. So the G1 press conference, I think there probably will be a translated version on YouTube. I'd be more interested in seeing that so I can know a little bit more about what some of the Japanese wrestlers said. But just for pure entertainment standard, again, this is becoming a thing now, the G1 Climax press conference every year. So I definitely say check it out when you get a chance if you got New Japan World on YouTube. Another bit of news in New Japan that has come up recently is that Hiroshi Tanahashi, and something kind of surprising to me, has announced the other day that there is a new IWGP committee. The G1 Climax 34 press tour saw the announcement of the restructured IWGP Committee, which oversees the tournaments and championship matches in New Japan. Hiroshi Tanahashi introduced the members of the committee and the operation of championship matches and tournaments in NJPW. The committee members consist of Yuji Nagata, of course, he's a multi-time former world champion. We also have Jushin Thunder Liger, who's probably the greatest junior heavyweight in the history of Japan and one of the greatest junior heavyweights in the history of wrestling, period. We also have former chief official Tiger Hattori. Of course, everybody who's familiar with foreign wrestling and Japanese wrestling and international wrestling knows Tiger Hattori, a legendary referee in New Japan. Sugabayashi is still on as the NJPW chairman, and Matsumoto is still the representative director. Tanahashi further explained that there was no committee president, but rather that as a group, the members will attend to various events and be on hand whenever required for decisions in the future. Now, this is kayfabe and part shoot. What I kind of take this is they're going to be somewhat of a booking committee, is what I'm gathering from this, is that they're going to have some sort of influence on how matches. And look, Jushin Liger, Yuji Nagata, Tiger Hattori, and Tanahashi all collaborating on how matches are going to be constructed and stuff. It's pretty good. I'm sure Geto's still involved, obviously, but I like the announcement of this, how much of this is kayfabe and how much of this is actually going to affect what goes on with booking and behind the scenes. We're going to see in the future. We're going to see if we can notice any changes, because New Japan, as Gabe Kid said when he looked at Evil and called, I mean, even though they're Bullet Club, he's like, I don't care if you're Bullet Club. You're not even really Bullet Club. You're an embarrassment to, I was shocked. He told Evil straight up, right in his face, you're an embarrassment to this company and you're not Bullet Club and I'm going to end you. And I'm like, wow, I can't wait to see that match. So, and I think it's, time to look at the first night of action in the G1 Climax 34, which is coming up on the 20th. And my goodness, what a lineup we have for the first night. Now, I have got to say, I'm already excited. I am already excited at looking at the first night of action for the main event. It's a match that I've kind of wanted to see for a while in this kind of a spot. And that match is between Tetsuya Naito and Shingo Takagi. The two of them will meet in Edion Arena in Osaka on night one on July the 20th. But that's not the only banger on this night that we're expecting. Uemura taking on David Finley. That should be interesting. El Phantasmo is going up against Tonari. Curious. Hiroki Goto is going to take it on Jeff Cobb. That's going to be a great strong style match. Yota Tsuji is taking on Konosuke Takeshita. Okay, so already I'm like, come on. Come on, this is going to be amazing. The Great Khan taking on Zack Sabre Jr. I think that's going to be probably the funny match of the night. Because remember, there is no Toru Yano this year in the G1, so we got to get our comedy somewhere. I think that's probably going to be a comedy match. And as I mentioned before, Gabe Kid on the first night will be taking on Evil. Intra Bullet Club. Well, according to Gabe Kid, Evil's not Bullet Club anyway. That's going to be very curious to see if we get a House of Torture War Dogs confrontation. I don't know if with Driller Maloney and Clark Connors are going to be around for the tournament, because they're not doing a lot of the multi-man tag matches this year, but Finley will be there. So I'm going to be curious to see if there is any kind of conflict between the House of Torture and the War Dogs as both subgroups of Japan's version of Bullet Club. Sonata's taking on Jake Lee. That could be a hit or miss, depending on what Sonata shows up. Like I said, the main event, Takagi and Naito. So we will be covering the G1 Climax. If you've been following us before, if you're not, you know how we do this here on the Rant and Review Pro Wrestling. If you're new to my channel and you're interested in the G1 and you want to keep up with the news, we will have reviews every few days here. We'll have who's got what points, where the standings are, who's still in contention, who's eliminated, as we go on through the tournament, through probably the 4 coolest weeks of pro wrestling. If you like wrestling, and you like wrestling presented as a sport, the G1 Climax is probably the biggest version of that in international wrestling. So, again, yeah, I agree with Gabe Kid. It's much more got that sports feel than the King of the Ring or the Continental Classic. Those are great tournaments, but nothing really compared to the G1 Climax. But I want to know what you guys think. Let your voice be heard in the comment box below. Are you excited for the G1 Night 1? Who do you think is going to take it this year? The field's wide open. I can't pick who's got. There are a number of guys that could take it. I could see Shingo taking it. I could see Gabe Kidd taking it. I could see David Finlay taking it. I could see Shota Umino taking it. I could see Zack Sabre Jr. possibly taking it. Maybe not. It's hard to pick who's going to take this and go on to Wrestle Kingdom in the main event. I got a feeling it's going to be one of the young guys, despite the fact that Jeff Cobb basically told all the young guys to go F themselves. But I think it might be one of the young guys, but time will tell. Until next time, I will see you guys here for more news, rumors, and reviews on the Rant and Review Pro Wrestling. Have a good day.